ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ. ಇವತ್ತಿನಿಂದ 6 ದಿವಸ ಅಂದರೆ 6ನೇ ತಾರೀಕಿನವರೆಗೆ ಉಪನಿಷತ್ತುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಬೋಧಿತವಾಗಿರುವ ಆತ್ಮಜ್ಞಾನ ವೈಶಿಷ್ಟ್ಯಗಳು, ಫ್ಯಾಸೆಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಇನ್ ದಿ ಉಪನಿಷತ್ಸ್, ಈ ವಿಷಯ ಕುರಿತು ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಚಿದಾನಂದಜಿ ಅವರ ಪ್ರವಚನ ಮಾಲೆ ನಡೆಯೋದಿದೆ. ಈ ಪ್ರವಚನ ಮಾಲೆ ದಿವಂಗತ ನಾಗರಾಜ್ ಅಕ್ಕಿಹೆಬ್ಬಾಳ್ ರಾಮಯ್ಯ ದತ್ತಿ, ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ಪ್ರೇಮಲೀಲಾ ಪತ್ತಿ ಪಾಂಡುರಂಗ ದತ್ತಿ, ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ಲಕ್ಷ್ಮೀಬಾಯಿ ಶ್ರೀ ಗೋವಿಂದರಾವ್ ನರೇಂದ್ರ ದತ್ತಿ, ಈ ದತ್ತಿಗಳ ಆಶ್ರಯದಲ್ಲಿ ನಡೀತಾ ಇದೆ. ಈ ದತ್ತಿಗಳನ್ನು ಏರ್ಪಡಿಸಿರುವ ದಾನಿಗಳಿಗೆ, ಅವರ ಪರಿವಾರಗಳಿಗೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ಶ್ರೇಯಸ್ಸು ಉಂಟಾಗಲಿ ಅಂತ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಈ ಪ್ರವಚನಗಳನ್ನು ನೀಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ನಮ್ಮ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆಯಂತೆ ಆಗಮಿಸಿರುವ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಚಿದಾನಂದ ಅವರಿಗೆ ನಮನಗಳನ್ನು ಸಲ್ಲಿಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೇನೆ. ಮೂಲತಃ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕದ ಉಡುಪಿ ಜಿಲ್ಲೆಯವರೇ ಆದ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಚಿದಾನಂದ ಅವರು ಇದೀಗ ಹಿಮಾಚಲ ಪ್ರದೇಶದ ಸೋಲಾನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನೆಲೆಸಿ ಸಾಧನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಕಳೆದ 3 ದಶಕಗಳಿಂದ ಅಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮ ಸಾಧನೆ, ಚಿಂತನೆ, ಬೋಧನೆ, ಗ್ರಂಥ ರಚನೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನಿರತರಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಾನಿಕ್ಸ್ನಲ್ಲಿ BE, ಮದ್ರಾಸಿನ IITಯಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲೆಕ್ಟ್ರಿಕಲ್ ಇಂಜಿನಿಯರಿಂಗ್ನಲ್ಲಿ MTech ಪದವಿ ಗಳಿಸಿದ ನಂತರ 2 ವರ್ಷ ದೆಹಲಿಯ HCL ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂಶೋಧಕರಾಗಿದ್ದರು. ಆಮೇಲೆ 3 ವರ್ಷ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿನ ಬ್ಯಾಂಗ್ಳೂರ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಅಧ್ಯಾಪಕರಾಗಿ 1980ರ ದಶಕದಲ್ಲಿ ಸೇವೆ ಸಲ್ಲಿಸಿದರು. ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಚಿನ್ಮಯಾನಂದರಿಂದ ಸ್ಥಾಪಿತವಾದ ಮುಂಬೈ ಸಾಂದೀಪನಿ ಸಾಧನಾಲಯದಲ್ಲಿ ವೇದಾಂತ ಶಾಸ್ತ್ರದ ಪ್ರೌಢ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಪಡೆದರು. 17 ವರ್ಷ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಸೇರಿದಂತೆ ದೇಶಾದ್ಯಂತ ವಿವಿಧ ಚಿನ್ಮಯ ಮಿಷನ್ ಕೇಂದ್ರಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಕೆಲಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. 3 ವರ್ಷ ಅಮೆರಿಕದ ಕ್ಯಾಲಿಫೋರ್ನಿಯಾದ ಸ್ಯಾನ್ ಹೊಸೆ ಚಿನ್ಮಯ ಮಿಷನ್ ಕೇಂದ್ರದ ಪ್ರಮುಖರಾಗಿದ್ದರು. ಈಚೆಗೆ 10 ವರ್ಷ ವಾರಣಾಸಿಯ ಜಿಡ್ಡು ಕೃಷ್ಣಮೂರ್ತಿ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಯ ಕಾರ್ಯಕರ್ತರಾಗಿದ್ದು 2.5 ವರ್ಷ ಅದರ ನಿರ್ದೇಶಕರೂ ಆಗಿದ್ದರು. ಕಳೆದ 10 ವರ್ಷಗಳಿಂದ ತಾವೇ ಫೋವೈ ಫ್ಲೇಮ್ ಆಫ್ ಹೂ ಆಮ್ ಐ ಹೆಸರಿನ ಅಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮ ಬೋಧನಾ ಕೇಂದ್ರವನ್ನು ನಡೆಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಬೋಧಕರಾಗಿ ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಚಿದಾನಂದರು ಜನಪ್ರಿಯರಾಗಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಮುಂಬಯಿಯಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದಾಗ 10 ಪೂರ್ಣಕಾಲೀನ ಸಾಧಕರಿಗೆ ತರಬೇತಿ ನೀಡಿದ್ದರು. ಅವರಿಂದ ಮಾರ್ಗದರ್ಶನ ಪಡೆದವರು ಅನೇಕರು ಈಗ ಜಗತ್ತಿನ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕಡೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರತಿಷ್ಠಿತರಾಗಿ ಅಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮ ಕೇಂದ್ರಗಳನ್ನು ನಡೆಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಟೆಕ್ನಾಲಜಿ, ಇಂಡಿಯನ್ ಇನ್ಸ್ಟಿಟ್ಯೂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಮ್ಯಾನೇಜ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ಮೊದಲಾದ ಪ್ರೌಢ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಗಳ ಮತ್ತು ಮೈಕ್ರೋಸಾಫ್ಟ್, ಇನ್ಫೋಸಿಸ್, ಮಾಸ್ಟೆಕ್, ಅಮೆರಿಕದ ಲೂಸೆಂಟ್ ಮೊದಲಾದ IT ಕಂಪನಿಗಳ ಉನ್ನತ ಸಿಬ್ಬಂದಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಮಾರ್ಗದರ್ಶನ ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇವರ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸಗಳ DVDಗಳು, ಆಡಿಯೋ CDಗಳು ಪ್ರೌಢ ಶಿಕ್ಷಣ ಸಂಸ್ಥೆಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ತುಂಬ ಬೇಡಿಕೆಯಲ್ಲಿವೆ. ಇರೇಸ್ ದಿ ಇಗೋ, ಈಕ್ವಾನಿಮಸ್ ಮೈಂಡ್, ಲೈಟ್ ಆನ್ ರೈಟ್ ಲಿವಿಂಗ್, ಹೀಗೆ ಹಲವು ಸಾಧಕೋಪಯೋಗಿ ಪುಸ್ತಕಗಳನ್ನು ಬರೆದು ಪ್ರಕಟಿಸಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಉಪನಿಷತ್ತುಗಳ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಜ್ಞಾನ ಪ್ರಸಾರಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ Upanishads.info ಎಂಬ ವೆಬ್ಸೈಟನ್ನು ನಡೆಸ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಚಿದಾನಂದರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ವಿಶೇಷಕ್ಕೆ ಗಮನ ಸೆಳೆಯೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಇಷ್ಟಪಡ್ತೇನೆ. ಸಾಮಾನ್ಯವಾಗಿ ಅನೇಕರು ತಮಗೆ ಒದಗಿದ ಸಹವಾಸಗಳಿಂದಲೋ ತಮಗೆ ಆದ ಗ್ರಂಥ ವ್ಯಾಸಂಗದಿಂದಲೋ ಪ್ರೇರಣೆ ಪಡೆದು ಪಾರಮಾರ್ಥಿಕ ಸಾಧಕ ಜೀವನಕ್ಕೆ ತಲುಪ್ತಾರೆ. ಚಿದಾನಂದರದು ಹೀಗಾಗಲಿಲ್ಲ. ಅವರ ಜೀನ್ಸ್ನಲ್ಲಿಯೇ ಅಧ್ಯಾತ್ಮದ ಬೀಜ ಅಡಗಿತ್ತು. ಅದರ ವಿಕಾಸಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಪೂರಕ ಸನ್ನಿವೇಶಗಳನ್ನು ಹುಡುಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗಿ ಸಾಧನೆಯಲ್ಲಿ ಕ್ರಮಕ್ರಮವಾಗಿ ಉನ್ನತ ದಶೆಗೆ ತಲುಪಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹೀಗೆ ಸ್ವೀಯ ಚಿಂತನ, ಮಂಥನ, ಸಾಧನೆ ಈಗ ಅವರ ವೃತ್ತಿ ಪ್ರವೃತ್ತಿ ಎರಡೂ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಅವರ ಮಾತುಗಳು ಅನುಭವಜನ್ಯವಾದ್ದರಿಂದ ಅವರ ಪ್ರತಿಪಾದನಾ ರೀತಿ ದೇಶ ವಿದೇಶಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಆಸಕ್ತರನ್ನು ಆಕರ್ಷಣೆ ಮಾಡಿದೆ. ಭಗವಾನ್ ರಮಣ ಮಹರ್ಷಿಗಳಿಂದ, ಜಿಡ್ಡು ಕೃಷ್ಣಮೂರ್ತಿಯವರಿಂದ ಹೆಚ್ಚಿನ ಸ್ಫೂರ್ತಿಯನ್ನು ಪಡೆದಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಇವರ ಅಧ್ಯಯನ, ಅನುಭವ ಎರಡೂ ವಿಶಾಲವಾಗಿವೆ. ಉಪನಿಷತ್ತುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಸಂಚಾರ ನಡೆಸೋದರಲ್ಲಿ ವಿಶೇಷ ಅಭಿನಿವೇಶವನ್ನು ಬೆಳೆಸಿಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಅವುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ನೇರವಾಗಿಯೇ ಸಾಧಕರಿಗೆ ದೀವಿಗೆಯಾಗುವ ಗುಣ ಇರೋದ ಕಾರಣದಿಂದ. ಹೀಗಾಗಿ ಉಪನಿಷತ್ತುಗಳ ಪ್ರಕಾಶ ಕುರಿತು ತಮ್ಮ ಚಿಂತನೆಯನ್ನು ಹಂಚಿಕೊಳ್ಳೋದು ಇವರ ಪ್ರಮುಖ ಆಸಕ್ತಿ ಕ್ಷೇತ್ರ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಅನೇಕ ಸಂದರ್ಭಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಉಪನಿಷತ್ತುಗಳು ಈ ಡ್ಯಾಬ್ಲರ್ಸ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಕ್ಯೂರಿಯಾಸಿಟಿ ಸರಕಾಗಿ ಅಷ್ಟೇ ಉಳಿದುಬಿಡುತ್ತೆ. ಚಿದಾನಂದರಿಗೆ ಉಪನಿಷತ್ತುಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಬೆಳಕಿನ ಕಡೆಗೆ, ಸಾರ್ಥಕತೆಯ ಕಡೆಗೆ ನಮ್ಮನ್ನು ಕರ್ಕೊಂಡು ಹೋಗುವ ಅಸಾಮಾನ್ಯ ಕಾಂತಿ ಕಂಡಿದೆ. ಈ 6 ದಿವಸಗಳಲ್ಲಿ ಅವರು ತಮಗೆ ಲಬ್ಧವಾಗಿರುವ ಒಳನೋಟಗಳನ್ನು ಪರಿಚಯಿಸೋರಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಫ್ಯಾಸೆಟ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಸೆಲ್ಫ್ ನಾಲೆಡ್ಜ್ ಇನ್ ದಿ ಉಪನಿಷತ್ಸ್ ಕುರಿತ ಪ್ರವಚನ ಮಾಲೆಯನ್ನು ಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಚಿದಾನಂದರು ಆರಂಭಿಸಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಪ್ರಾರ್ಥನೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೇನೆ.
ಶ್ರೀಯುತರಾದ ಶ್ರೀರಾಮಸ್ವಾಮಿ ಅವರು ಹೇಳಿದ ಮಾತುಗಳು ನನ್ನ ದೃಷ್ಟಿಯಲ್ಲಂತೂ ಅತಿಶಯೋಕ್ತಿಯೇ. ಆದರೂ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಈ ಉದಾರ ಮಾತುಗಳು, ಉದಾರ ವಚನಗಳಿಗಾಗಿ ಕೃತಜ್ಞತೆಗಳನ್ನು ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಯಾಕಂದರೆ ಮಾತನಾಡುವವರಿಗೆ ಒಂದು ಉತ್ತೇಜನವಾಗ್ತದೆ ಇಂಥ ಮಾತುಗಳು. ಚಂದ್ರೋದ್ಭಾಸಿತ ಶೇಖರೇ ಸ್ಮರಹರೇ ಗಂಗಾಧರೇ ಶಂಕರೇ ಸರ್ಪೈರ್ಭೂಷಿತ ಕಂಠಕರ್ಣ ವಿವರೇ ನೇತ್ರೋತ್ಥವೈಶ್ವಾನರೇ ದಂತಿತ್ವಕೃತ ಸುಂದರಾಂಬರಧರೇ ತ್ರೈಲೋಕ್ಯಸಾರೇ ಹರೇ ಮೋಕ್ಷಾರ್ಥಂ ಕುರು ಚಿತ್ತವೃತ್ತಿಮಖಿಲಾಂ ಅನ್ಯೈಸ್ತು ಕಿಂ ಕರ್ಮಭಿಃ. ಓಂ ನಮಃ ಶಿವಾಯ. ಓಂ ಶ್ರೀ ಗುರುಭ್ಯೋ ನಮಃ. This lecture series for 6 evenings, as per the announcement, is going to be in the English language. Bengaluru being a cosmopolitan city, we thought of having these talks in English. Here and there, of course, I will sprinkle some Kannada, considering the majority being Kannadigas and the speaker also being what they call Appata Kannadiga. We have quite a serious theme for these 6 evenings: facets of self-knowledge in Upanishads. I invoke divine grace to enable the speaker and the audience to receive the best thoughts, the best insights, the best reflections on this chosen theme. What is self-knowledge? We have knowledge of a million things in this world. However, everything and all things can be classified into 2 domains: knowledge of the world and knowledge of oneself. In Sanskrit, we use two pronouns to denote these two categories. Idam represents the entire outer world. Aham represents oneself. You and I gain knowledge. That knowledge then is seated in our thoughts. And once more, these thoughts can also be classified as idam vritti, vritti meaning thought, and aham vritti. Generally, both these two domains, idam vritti and aham vritti, knowledge of objects and knowledge of oneself, generally are relative to each other. I show a house and then say it is my house. So that house, which was an idam vritti, gets connected to me. It's my house. And then I say to somebody, I am so and so. Then I say, I am the owner of that shop. So this I gets connected to that. There is a shop, I am its owner, and this is a house and it is my house. So me, I, and related ideas get connected to house and shop and 100 things. The Upanishads take this self-knowledge to a higher level. From the relative, the Upanishads lead us to the absolute. They point to an I which is without this boundary, without this limit. I wish to present before you through these talks certain Upanishadic revelations which have a direct bearing on this self-knowledge. Perhaps of all the Upanishads, the most well-known is the Ishavasya Upanishad. It is well known among serious spiritual seekers. It is the first Upanishad that traditionally Jidnasus, seekers of spiritual knowledge, study in various ashrams. In fact, you have many publications titled Isha Adi Dashopanishadaha, 10 Upanishads beginning with Isha. And it is also much well received in circles known for social service or other noble causes. People like Mahatma Gandhi or Vinoba Bhave gave rich tributes to Ishavasya Upanishad. Mahatma Gandhi, they say, made a comment, if all other books of wisdom of our country are destroyed and Ishavasya Upanishad remains, that is enough to revive the entire Sanatana Dharma. And he did not stop there, we are told. Even in the Ishavasya Upanishad, if the first mantra remains, that is enough, he said. Such was his adoration, such was his pride, delight, reverence for Ishavasya Upanishad. And I wish to say here The very first mantra of Ishavasya Upanishad has a bearing on self-knowledge. Not all may be able to see quickly how the first mantra, Ishavasyam idam sarvam yatkincha jagatyan jagat tena tyaktena bhunjithaha ma'agrida kasyasvidhanam, how this mantra has a bearing on self-realization, self-knowledge, may not be evident to everybody at first sight. Perhaps people may figure it out thanks to proper guidance or the profound and precise commentaries by great saints, philosophers like Adi Shankaracharya. But life has taught me that it is not only scholarship that gives to people the liberating insight. Therefore, I would add that a second possibility by which people may realize that this mantra or such statements give self-knowledge could be a simple, plain, pure mind, purva sanskaras. All along we have had in the rich spiritual tradition of our country and perhaps elsewhere too, instances or cases of people who have not gone through the rigorous studies in any institution or ashram, but who at the same time have awakened to their own higher self. The overwhelming majority of people in the world are caught in the lower self. I, me and my, everything defined in terms of the physical body, the possessions, the positions, who praised us, who made fun of us, and such things. All of them in an instant fill our head and continuously define and redefine who we are. This mind is such a machine that hardly takes rest. And in this mind of ours, a sense of who I am is constantly being created. If somebody praises you, next moment you will have a very good sense of who you are. And if somebody does the opposite, your mind will likely create a negative sense of who you are. So, if thoughts in consequence to events and incidents create a sense of who you are, that is bound to be a lower self. You might have heard of a book written by Paul Brunton after he came and studied the wisdom of India and was quite taken aback by the rich heritage of self-knowledge in our country. He wrote a book of his own and the title was interesting. The wisdom of the over-self. There is a lower self and we said higher self, but Paul Brunton chose to call it the wisdom of the over-self. So higher or over or upper, whatever, certainly it is distinct from the kind of self, me, that ordinarily you and I perceive, experience and present before others too. So, Ishavasyam idam sarvam as everybody knows, primarily says there is God and God alone. Everything is God, outside and inside. Idam sarvam. Yat kincha, whatever here, jagatyam jagat, in this entire creation, whatever is moving, changing, whatever is seen, unseen, it is all that Ishvara. Isha Vasyam. One has to have such understanding whereby everything outside, inside, past, future, and so on is pervaded by God. Isha means by God. So God alone is. Everything belongs to God. And therefore the last part of the mantra says, Ma gridaha. Do not covet. Do not try to say, this is mine. Whether it is a physical object or some position, some status, only for functionality you may do so. In your heart, you got to know that all this is a play. Here I will now make an important comment. When there is God and God only, then the me, the separate I, gets negated. When you see the rope, as the famous example goes in the Advaita Vedanta, when you see the rope, thanks to the beam of light that you may turn on using your torch, then what happens to the snake which earlier was over there, which earlier seemed to be there and caused fear in you? The snake gets negated. When you see it is a rope, there is no more the snake. When you see it is all God, then there is no more me. Therefore, the wisdom of the self-knowledge is summarily described in this way: the separate self, which is so much a part of our daily life ordinarily, is actually an illusion. The separate self is an illusion, is an important revelation of the Upanishads. To say God alone is, everything is God, there is nothing other than God, is to indirectly say that the separate I is an illusion. This is said in all the Upanishads in different ways. In the Chandogya Upanishad, for example, it is said, Sarvam khalu idam brahma. Everything here is Brahma. And the oneness of Brahma and Atma has been made clear in countless Upanishadic statements. We'll come to that as we take it up. My lectures are neither going to be very academic in nature, giving more and more instances and quotations and arguing it out. I am not so equipped for that. Nor are they going to be totally faith-based, nor are they going to be so much of just saying this is what it is, don't ask questions. That would be another extreme. Reflecting the training that I have received, let me tell you, my expressions will be a middle path. And it not only reflects the training that the speaker has received over the years, but it also reflects what a seeker generally wants. A seeker who is intellectually active would want necessary logic, not a whole lot of scholarship, and a seeker would want essential pointers of the great sacred lore. Whereas in universities, in purely academic circles, the demand is different. And in highly faith-based groups of devotees, they have so much faith in the Guru, so much faith in maybe just a scripture, they do not actually make an issue of where it is said and why it means in this way. They need very little of explanations. The Guru has said, and they say, all right. Which is also fine. We are not here to say that our approach is the best. In this world, loko bhinna ruchi, there are many approaches. Some people need highly academic content. Then only they are at peace with it. So, I am going to take certain expressions of or revelations of varieties of sources. Here, of course, Upanishads. Therefore, negation of the separate self is revealed in this Ishavasya Upanishad right away in the first mantra. I should make the point a little more clear, especially for those of you who may not have been very familiar with some of these lines of thinking. I presume that the audience here is not very unfamiliar with the Upanishadic statements, but anyhow, there are always some who need some basic clarifications. What is this separate self to which I have referred? Let me say, the separate self is a psychological construction. You know, somebody received a gift of 10 lakhs of rupees. Actually, he was living happily. I mean, as happily as generally it is possible. No one is supremely or completely happy. But here was this man who was pretty much happy. And then somebody said, "We have selected you to give a gift." He said, "Oh, really? What gift?" And then he was told that it's a rupees 10 lakhs gift. And we have chosen you on such and such grounds, whatever. He was very delighted. He started having dreams of what to do with that 10 lakhs. What I shall buy, what I shall, acquire. And the rupees 10 lakhs were given to him also. He was called to Bengaluru, and given that in a glittering function. And he took, it was cash, good old days. He took that and took the night train back to Hubli, where he came from. And morning when he went home, opens his bag, it had been stolen. All in a few hours. Earlier evening, 6 o'clock, he received it. And his joy knew no bounds. And he said, "I am now the owner of 10 lakhs of rupees." It's a good old days story. Maybe now I should change the figure to bring it to 2016. But in the 70s or 80s, 10 lakhs was a very big figure. And by morning, he finds that that whole amount had been taken away. He is extremely sad. Now, a friend of his asked him, wait a minute, you were told last month that you would be given this gift. What was your state of mind before that? I was very happy, he admitted. I was, in fact, people used to compliment me. How come you are so cheerful always? In my friend circle, he went on describing, I had a good name of being very contented, very cheerful. The only complaint that my wife had was, why don't you worry sometimes? Sometimes at least you should get agitated. Come what may, you are peaceful. That was the complaint about me, there was no other complaint. But now I am so miserable. So the friend said to him, look, why don't you look at this whole thing as a just bad dream? He said, that is the kind of advice we give to others. But when it happens to us ourselves, I don't know. I'm feeling very sad, very hurt. I get very angry. I'm starting imagining on the train who else was there. I was on the lower berth and opposite there was somebody, he would not have. There was mind was in riot, trying to imagine. Or was it before I boarded the train in Bengaluru? Or was it after I got down in Hubli and on my way from railway station to my home? Where did it happen? He is restless. Now, with all due sympathy to him, we say that thought, that is our mind, creates a sense of, I am so fortunate, I am so blessed, now I am safe, now I am secure. And then thought creates later on, in the light of this memory, that I not only lost 10 lakhs of rupees, but this is so humiliating. And it hurts my pride also, that I was so careless. See, it's not just the money that has gone, but it is a sense of, was I so careless? Did I make a blunder? Did I show it to somebody which prompted them to then pick it? If it is so, there is a sense of guilt that I was so foolish. I did not conduct myself in a responsible, careful way. This is called psychology. Psychology is something which, in relation to money or pleasure or relationship or any other, continuously throws many judgments in the air. And behind these judgments there are beliefs, there are value systems, and so on and so forth. Now we say the separate self which you and I carry is a psychological construction. The Upanishads ask us to rise above our psychology. The Upanishads don't ask us to move away from factual, objective perception. The Upanishads never say, see red as blue, see big as small. No. If something is hot, please perceive it as hot. These are factual. No Upanishad says, tomorrow onwards, perceive fire as cold. Fire is hot, and it will always be hot. Therefore, sometimes we say the Upanishads are a great science. While ordinary science deals with phenomena of the world, the Upanishads have penetrating insights into the phenomena of our mind. And the most fundamental phenomenon in the psychological world is the incessant creation of this I. I am good, I am bad, I am successful, I am a failure. We are 4 brothers and I am the most accomplished one, you see. Everybody knows it. This is a psychological construction. If anybody is in the clutches of that, then that is what makes him or her a jiva. And if anyone deeply is impacted by Ishavasyamidam Sarvam, let me tell you, this idea, I am the most accomplished one, or some other place, I am such a failure, I am nowhere, everybody else has gone way ahead of me. This comparative I, that vanishes, that gets negated. That has no room in the intense appreciation of the Upanishadic revelation. Ishavasyamidam. Therefore, kasya svidhanam. Suppose this man who lost the 10 lakhs of rupees were to have intense contemplation. He has done Vedanta Shravana. Not just done, he has reflected upon it. And he has come to own that vision. He has not used it just to advise others. He has not used it just to conduct some group discussions. He has not used the Vedanta to show off over a cup of tea, which generally one tends to do. Instead, imagine, here is a man or a lady, any of you, contemplates upon Ishavasyamidam sarvam yatkincha jagatyan jagat tena tyaktena bhunjitaha magradaha. Don't covet. Kasya svidhanam. Whose is this wealth? If someone has done intense contemplation as a seeker, not to get a PhD or not to say, you know, this is so wonderful, therefore our Hinduism is better than some other ism. These are all secondary, tertiary or nth level uses of this literature. The Upanishads are primarily meant to remove your sorrow. The Vedantas, Upanishads are themselves called the Vedantas. Plural, because Upanishads are many, so you sometimes say Vedantas. Sometimes you say the Vedanta single or singular, because it is a school, it is a system. So let's not get into the language aspect of it. The Vedantas are primarily meant to remove your sorrow and bring to you total happiness. They talk about it as a prayojana. Kim prayojanam Vedantanam Upanishadam Kim prayojanam. Upanishadugala prayojana enu? Yaku odbeku? The reply is Atyantika dukkha nivrittihi and Paramananda praptihi. Not dukkha nivritti for a short while. All of us send our sorrow away for a short while by various means. Good food, good drink, a movie, some music, 100 things. I need not give examples. But Atyantika dukkha nivritti. Sorrow ends forever. And Parama Ananda praptihi. And that is connected to the removal of the separate self. So when you say there is no separate self, so is there some non-separate self? Yeah, we agree. We do say yes, there is a non-separate self. That is what is called the non-dual Atma. The Ishavasya itself, in the 6th and 7th mantras, talks about that non-separate self. The self-knowledge that you and I presently have is knowledge of the separate self. If any of us were to ask ourselves, who am I? What is the answer you and I get? Within ourselves, or when somebody asks us, it is typically in relation to others, in relation to what we possess. And invariably, when you and I come out with that kind of reply, publicly or privately, it is separate. I am the chairman of a well-known company down here on MG Road. When you say, I am the chairman, and there are others who are not chairmen, who are officers on different ranks and other employees. Separation came, right? Or in relationships, don't you know me? I am husband of some name you say, Manorama. Manorama is very well known in some locality. So relationship. Right away, I am not Manorama, I am her husband. And Manorama and I are different from Sita and her husband Padmanabhan. Like this separation, right? But please see the purport of the two mantras in the Ishavasya. Yastu sarvani bhutani atmani eva anupashyati sarva bhuteshu cha atmanam tato na vijugupsate is the fifth mantra, rather sixth mantra. 6 and 7 talk about this non-separate self. So let me make it clear. Worldly knowledge strengthens our separate self. You are separate from me, I am separate from her, she is again separate from him. Why? You are a rich person, I am not so rich. Why am I separate from her? I am knowledgeable, she is not. Why is she separate from him? Oh, she lives in United Kingdom and he lives here only in Kolar. So, there are separations. But here comes the statement, Yaha tu sarvani bhutani atmani eva anupashyati. One who sees all in oneself. The lady living in Kolar, the man living in United Kingdom, the person who is very knowledgeable and somebody else who is very rich. Or why talk of physical things? Emotionally also. Somebody is sobbing over there and somebody laughing over here. Somebody very happy over here and someone else very bored, depressed. Today somebody asked me on telephone, are you also sometimes sad? Do you also get dull moments? Do you also have some depression at times, Swamiji? I had to tell him, yes, I too get, maybe much less often than most others. But the human mind is like that. Mind takes us up and down, right? So the person who is sad, another who is happy, someone who is bored, someone else who is feeling restless, how do we see all of them in us? ಯಾರು ಎಲ್ಲರನ್ನೂ ತನ್ನೊಳಗೆ ನೋಡುತ್ತಾನೆಯೋ ಮತ್ತು ತನ್ನನ್ನು ಎಲ್ಲರೊಳಗೆ ಯಾರು ನೋಡುತ್ತಾನೆಯೋ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಬದುಕಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಭಯವಿಲ್ಲ. ತತೋ ನ ವಿಜುಗುಪ್ಸತೆ ತತಃ ತಸ್ಮಾತ್ ತಸ್ಮಾತ್ ಜ್ಞಾನಾತ್. Out of that wisdom, out of that knowledge, the benefit he or she receives is na vijugupsate. We know what is vijugupsa? We give a simple translation, he does not fear anymore. But the etymology, the way the word is derived is, everybody knows what is gopana, gupta. What is gupta? Something hidden, something protected. Our man who went from Bengaluru to Hubli was very careful in his own eyes. He had kept the 10 lakhs cash, Gupta. Morning it became Lupta. It was lost. So Gup is to protect. And friends, more than money, more than our house or car, more than even our spouse or children, do you know what every one of us hides or protects, takes extra care to ensure that it is not lost? You know what it is? It is our own image, our own self-image. Even while explaining that man's case, I said, when he lost 10 lakhs of rupees and the friend said to him, okay, you didn't have it a few days before and you are quite happy. Just forget this whole episode and continue your life as you were anyhow living. You are not into debt. You are not in jail. You are as free as before. I told you, I explained that apart from the rupees 10 lakhs gone, our man here is hurt, is tortured by a sense of guilt. How could I be careless? Nothing should go wrong at my hands. I don't care for the 10 lakhs of rupees. Now tomorrow when my son loses even 10 rupees, that son's mother, my wife, will say, yeah, he lost 10 rupees, like you lost 10 lakhs that day. And that is going to hurt me. The sense of, I am careless, I also make mistakes, it's not acceptable to me. Many of us are like that. We don't need even a proper bed to sleep on. We'll sleep on just a chape, a little carpet. But you and I are very touchy about what people think of us. We are very, very touchy about our self-image. And this Ishavasya line, na vijugupsate, means you are no more concerned with your self-image. In 1984, I left a job in a company and joined the ashram. And I thought, once I join ashram, in a year or two I should be liberated. It has not happened, you will be happy to hear that. I thought everybody will be so illumined. Before I joined an ashram, anybody from that ashram in yellow or orange robes came to me, I looked at them as enlightened people. Then I also wore yellow and orange and all that. Now I know, when I look back, I don't mind sharing this more from a learning point of view. I have no other uddeshya, no other intention here. It is not very difficult to leave your home and join an ashram. It is not a big deal not to marry and stay alone. It is not a big deal not to have a bank account or not to have one's own house or car, etc. They are not so difficult. There are many people who are not sannyasis who also don't have a house, who also don't have a wife or husband, who also, Sometimes I wonder why the society doesn't go and touch their feet. But the society is conditioned. Some of us are respected. I sometimes wonder why we are so much respected. Anyway, that's a different topic. Point is, I saw with my own eyes about myself and about many others also who are into some ashram life for years and years, that the one thing that they were finding it very difficult to give up was the attachment to the image. Even spirituality, alas, becomes another investment. Just like people invest and then they are worried about returns. I heard an expression from a chartered accountant day before, ROI, return on investment. And in commerce, in economics, in all that they use this. Return on investment. Moment you have invested in whatever way, you want some return from it and you evaluate it. Now it has vast significance. And the human mind, even when it renounces, a person renounces, starts calculating what is the return on investments? Then you are caught. You are no different from a man in the world. But alas, it is extremely difficult for anybody to drop this idea of this ROI. Don't study Upanishads with an ROI in mind. Please don't study Gita with an ROI in mind. Easier said than done. I have seen people who have been into the so-called Vedanta studies, but they are caught in this ROI. And therefore, there is no transcendence, there is no rising. And there are some people who for some reason have given up, let us say, ashram life. They also look at it. I had a wonderful investment, but I withdrew it. And if I had continued, it would have given returns to me. That is an illusion. That is a Bhranti. Ishavasya, or for that matter, all the Upanishads, in fact, come down heavily. They strike at the very root of these basic illusions in human life. Everything and anything that we do, we make into an affair where there is an ROI. Therefore, what is supposed to be nivritti, renunciation in Sanskrit is called nivritti. Otherwise, the life of earning and spending, the life of taking care of family is called pravritti. The Vedas give guidance both in pravritti as well as nivritti. Dvivido hi vedokta dharmaha pravritti rupaha nivritti lakshanascha. These are great basic statements of the teachers like Bhagavan Bhashyakara, Adi Shankara. In pravritti, you and I are engaged in activities of the world. The Vedas, the spiritual literature guides you and me, how to go about it in such a way that psychologically we are least shackled. Otherwise, anything you touch, outwardly gain or loss is a different issue. Psychologically it shackles you. See, those 10 lakhs that was with that man for maybe 10 hours, 6 p.m. he received, and 6 a.m. he found it was not with him. And psychologically it shackled him. He was in chains. And after a while he was feeling very miserable, sad, guilty, depressed. So many conflicts. Shall I tell the police? Shall I tell everybody? Oh, that is another hassle. That is another trouble. The mind was in much unrest. So, in pravritti, there is what is called the teaching of nishkama karma. It's not an easy thing, a great art. It's such a great art. And that is what Bhagavad Gita calls kaushala. If you go about your pravritti with a special skill that you don't get shackled in the mind, that is kaushala, special skill, and that itself is yoga. You know the statement, yogaha karmasu kaushalam. But in nivritti, more than giving up wealth or property or position, the essence is give up this attachment to your image. If you have gained some knowledge of Upanishads, and if there is an iota of expectation that people will respect you now for the knowledge of Upanishads that you have, then you are caught. It's a very hard tightrope walk, can you see? Very hard. Therefore, this transformation of the human consciousness from one that is busy in ROI, return on investment, where spirituality also is made into an investment. Sadhana also is made into an investment, and you wonder what is the return. The Bhranti is very hard, very, very difficult to get over. You do japa one day, you look at it as investment and say, I have done my japa today, and therefore I must be now more pure. It is good to do japa, but if that thought comes of calculation, you are stuck. Another day you miss your japa because you attended a New Year Eve party, got up late, then you rush to work, then you feel guilty. I did not do my japa today. See, this is called psychological shackle. And all of us go through it. Tato na vijugupsate. Na vijugupsate means there is an erasure of the separate self itself. Normally we are so concerned with I that went up materially or spiritually. Then there is the I, the same I, separate I, which went down materially or spiritually. But we are talking of, or the Upanishads' revelation of self-knowledge is, there is this I in you which neither rises nor falls. So should we not do any japa? That is not the point. Let me clarify. Upanishads are not into the domain of do's and don'ts. Do this and don't do that, that is considered karma vibhaga. In karma and upasana, it is all about what to do and what not to do. And if you choose something that you want to do, then they also tell you how to do. It is karma and upasana. Our rishis have made this very clear. The Vedas are, broadly speaking, in three categories: karma, upasana, and jnana. Upanishads are primarily in jnana. I may, in a passing manner, make references to some portions of Upanishads in these talks, where Upanishads also touch on upasana and karma. So we say, where they touch on karma or upasana, that is secondary. A person speaking on Bhagavatam may crack 2 jokes. Don't go home and say, I went to that speech, he was primarily a joker. No, he cracked couple of jokes, but that was not primary. The speaker on Srimad Bhagavatam spoke on Bhagavatam, spoke on devotion to Supreme Lord Narayana, and went into very many facets of Bhagavad Bhakti or Bhagavata Dharma, and somewhere he cracked 2 jokes. It would be a great injustice if somebody who attended the talk went home and said that, that was a joker there. No. In the same way, Upanishads do touch on karma and upasana a little bit. Sometimes there may be a Upanishad and in quantity there may be only 3 out of 10 that touch upon self-knowledge, that is jnana. And 7 out of 10 might be some other matters. Even then, we say, those 3 are the crux of the treatise. This Upanishad is a treatise. The Upanishad is a composition. It is a text. Of course, in its deepest meaning, it is not a book or not a text or not words. You know what is the deepest meaning of Upanishad that Adi Shankara gives in several commentaries of his? He says, in no uncertain terms, he says, that is Upanishad which destroys your ignorance. That is Upanishad which loosens and destroys all your bondage. And it is not book. Therefore, the primary meaning of Upanishads, strictly speaking, is the liberating vision, the liberating insight. And then Adi Shankara himself says, Gauna Vrittya, in a secondary sense, Grantaha api Upanishad uchyate. The book you carry also can be called Upanishad in a secondary sense. It is a very beautiful material actually. To reflect on Upanishads, to study them, to go about them with a certain personal passion is a great privilege in human life. It is all about the inner freedom. It is our psychological structures that bind us. And when those structures are loosened and cast aside, we feel such a relief. It is like a bad dream from which you wake up and say, what a relief. Some of us, even after 30 or 40 years after writing the last examination, get those exams in dreams. And when they wake up, they say, oh my God, thanks. Thank God, I am not writing this exam anymore. Incidentally, if you reflect on it, you know why it happens? It's not because of exams per se. It is because of the terrible education system which evaluates us on the basis of how well we do in exams. I could be doing all sorts of wrong things, but finally I write those 5 or 6 papers and get some very good marks. My family, my society, my school, my teachers, all of them will compliment me. Of course, they will also say, he has some problems, but look at him, how well he has done. Their face lights up. Satyameva jayate. If a student is into some wrong things, it won't go unnoticed or he won't go scot-free. He pays a price for it. But he gets such recognition for passing the examination. The exam-centered education system, and let me say this to you. Wherever there is reward, invariably, like the other side of the same coin, there is punishment. Reward and punishment go together. Therefore, a certain system of values, whether it is in school, like exams and so on, or at home, where parents, let us say, or elder brother or sister, let's say, pat the younger brother or younger sister, younger son, younger daughter for certain things, praise him to no end, and for certain other things, they condemn him. This praising and condemning is a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing how psychologically we get more and more wedded to that system. We get so dependent on receiving reward, and we are so scared of punishment, or one step further, we are very scared of not getting the reward. So those who have won prizes also suffer terribly in their life later. You know why? A point comes when they are, maybe because their knowledge is outdated or they have got old, or their own students or sons or daughters are faring better now. But because the mind is shackled by this reward, one feels miserable. So if you and I get some dreams where we are scared that I have to write exam and time is running out, and then we wake up and we feel relieved. Actually, that fear is a certain wound. It is a certain injury, psychological injury, not physical, that was inflicted upon us in our school days, college days. Rather than making pursuit of knowledge a certain happy process, pursuit of knowledge was tied to reward and punishment. and therefore we suffer. Therefore vijugupsate. Normally, naraha vijugupsate. A man is terribly afraid. Why are we afraid of failing? It is not the failure of which we are afraid. When I fail, what will people think of me? And how will I look at myself? Will I accept myself as I am? It's a terrible thing. Upanishad is to set us free and gain total objectivity. Otherwise, we live in fear endlessly. Sometimes you and I have accomplished and we are continuing to do well by and large. But a daughter of ours is not doing well in studies. Actually, there is nothing wrong in her not doing well in studies. Maybe she is meant for something else. But if we are so conditioned to measure everybody in studies only, then we make it a big issue. We have sleepless nights. Neither we sleep nor we let her sleep. That's what happens in that family. Our son's studies, his job, our daughter, our grandchildren, their career, their marriage, their social position, 100 things. All of them vijugupsate. If somebody comes and asks us, all right, I believe your son lost his job. He is very good, intelligent. He will find out. He will get perhaps a better job. Do we like it? If you actually take a look at your mind, typically, you will say, my son lost his job, and I am hoping nobody would come to know in the town. There are fear about this. Let me not go on and on. There are other things to talk about. This attachment to image is something you and I need to examine directly. Please don't go about it in an academic fashion. Don't read a book. Don't go to a library and see which is the biggest, fattest book on self-image and start reading it. Rather than reading any book on self-image, you must actually slow down a little bit, cease to be mechanical. Don't live your day to day the same way as you did yesterday. Just pause and proceed. Here and there, examine your priorities. You and I have set some priorities. Though we are much respected in the society, alas, what keeps us bound is not lack of intelligence in the ordinary sense. We are quite intelligent, we are very smart. What keeps us bound is we are not aware or alert with respect to our priorities. We keep doing the same thing day after day, for some paltry benefits. When we keep doing the same thing repeatedly, we do get some benefits, rewards for whatever we are doing, and we are somewhat happy, but there are certain fundamental issues. Quite possibly, as a possibility, I am saying, all that you have been doing for last 30, 40, 50 years, quite possibly, I would repeat the adverb, is not your real calling. You have not found your real heart's desire yet. Possibly, find out. A 70-year-old woman could discover that her actual calling is different. All along she has been running to satisfy some norm, some pattern, some image. First it was what parents imposed on her, and later on she just got into it, never questioned it. Therefore, you know what? In these talks, I would like to here and there, as it comes to me, sprinkle certain deeper insights which are in the Upanishads. And one of them comes to my mind now. This freedom, this emancipation, there are many words in English, mukti, moksha, right? One of the insights in Upanishads is, as is made very evident by Shankara's commentaries, which I shall quote in subsequent talks a little bit here and there, Adi Shankara has made scintillating comments on the Upanishadic lines. And one of them is, let me express today for this evening in simple English, this freedom has nothing to do with doing something, and therefore, because it is nothing to do with doing something, it doesn't have anything to do with time. It is nothing to do with, give me another few years, I will bring my life to order and I will be free. Swamiji, my life is in very much disorder. Sorry about it. You and I do that. We admit before a good friend, or we say to ourselves, in moments of sadness we say, I know so much, I have studied so much, I have done some japa tapa also, I have attended so many lectures, but my life is in disorder. ನನ್ನ ಬದುಕು ಬಹಳ ಅವ್ಯವಸ್ಥಿತವಾಗಿದೆ. ಜನರು ಗೌರವ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ, ಏನು ಜನರ ಗೌರವದಿಂದ ಏನು ಪ್ರಯೋಜನ? ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತು, ಆಯ್ತು, ನನಗೆ 68 ಆಯಿತು. ಅಥವಾ somebody else may say, I am 73 now. Or say, story is same. Somebody says, I am 36 now. Vivekananda passed away when he was 39. I am 36 already, 3 years left for me. These are all very funny mischiefs of the mind, by the way. The mind does a lot of drama. The mind, your thought, these are, I say mind, I say thought, but actually these are certain influences upon us. These are certain conditionings, these are certain, prabhavas upon us. And rather than getting to the point, we go to Vivekananda or Shankara or X or Y, and it's a big escape. These escapes are going to keep you in the field of time. Time is a field. Time is a kshetra. Time is a valaya. Time is a sphere. And you really are not bound by that sphere. You actually are something. That's what the Upanishads declare. That is self-knowledge. You are actually something which is nothing to do with time. And then, if you can see this in that seeing which is not in time, you get free. This is something you must reflect on, and of course you please ask questions too, but I am making a statement here, and another day definitely I will, please don't think that simply we take the name of Shankara or somebody. I will definitely quote. There are some very powerful lines of Adi Shankara which actually talk about time. Okay. So, if one were to see, I am making this statement and I am asking you to reflect on this. Seeing is not on the axis of time. Doing is on the axis of time. Now you may say, Swamiji, because you say we dare not question you, but please do question. You may say, okay, if you permit us, Seeing also takes time. Suppose you give me a rose and ask me to see. I take time to see the rose. You may say seeing takes time. But no. We would say the accumulation of knowledge takes time. You see a rose, it is of this color, it is of this kanti, there is some shine. ಈ ಗುಲಾಬಿ ಹೂವು ಇಂಥ ಬಣ್ಣದ್ದು, ಇಷ್ಟೊಂದು ಕಾಂತಿ ಇದೆ, ಈ ಗುಲಾಬಿ ಹೂ ಎಷ್ಟು ಮೃದುವಾಗಿದೆ. One by one you take and it gets collected. Knowledge accumulation takes time. But every moment of seeing is beyond that moment. Seeing itself is not a matter of time. So in your quiet contemplation on the Upanishadic Vakyas, you will find, this is what you have to find for yourself. You will find that here is sorrow and here is me going through sorrow, and this me that is going through sorrow is actually put together by thought. And I am aware of it, I am noticing it, and I see clearly the possibility of these conclusions drawn by thought, drawn by memory, etc., being a mere phantom figure. That is why in the Upanishads it is said all this is an illusion. I personally do not know whether Upanishads really wanted to call this physical world an illusion. Sometimes it is said, Sarvam Mithya, Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, it is said. So what is its vyapti? What is its scope? Brahma Satyam, Jagan Mithya, does it mean every physical thing also is an illusion? Perhaps yes, perhaps no. Perhaps yes, I do see possibility there too. Because whatever object there is, it gets validity because of our senses. It has no validity of its own. That's another topic. Now, leave the objective physical world. You will see in your quiet watchfulness. Watchfulness is the greatest sadhana in the spiritual domain. Your study, your manana brings you closer and closer. It helps you anchor yourself in watchfulness. And in this watchfulness, you will see that not just sorrow, but I who has this sorrow is a mere phantom figure. Is a mere, what shall we say, construction of thought. Just as if you were to play with children, and as part of the game you are playing, you become a villain. One boy becomes policeman, and somebody else is another character, and you steal something, the policeman catches you, and there's a story going on. One Sunday morning you play a little game, let us say, a little nataka at home. Don't you in between see clearly that I am playing this role of a villain, I am not the villain. Likewise, the position of the Vedanta is seeing that this I, the separate self, this I is nothing but the separate self. Seeing that the separate self is an illusion is a drishti, is a darshana which is not in the domain of time. To bring forth that there is an insight which can totally remove your sorrow, because the entity that goes through sorrow itself is undone, demolished here. Many places the Upanishads declare, and one example that I may cite for this evening is the very popular mantra of the Mundaka, Bhidyate hridaya grantihi, Chidyante sarva samshayah, Kshiyante chasya karmani, Tasmin drishte paravare. The word used is drishte, not krite. It is not upasana, it is not karma, it is drishta. It is drishti. When you see the truth of your existence, so far you did not see because you fell in love with this image of yours, which gave you bouts of happiness and, alas, many more bouts of fear. Sarvam vastu bhayanvitam bhuvi nrinam vairagyameva abhayam, says Bhartrahari. Everything in this world, woman, man, position, power, wealth, fame, name, living abroad, living here, living over here, being a house owner, joining an ashram, leaving an ashram, all of them. Sarvam vastu bhayanvitam bhuvi. Until you are disciples, you think being guru should be free. Being a guru is another problem. Being a disciple is one problem. Being nobody is the best. Be nobody, go nowhere. Psychologically speaking. Physically you may go anywhere, and outwardly you may be anything. In fact, outwardly everybody is something. But inwardly, if you are not attached to any particular, personal description, this who am I, which Sri Ramana Maharshi popularized even more, which was there before also, but Maharshi Ramana highlighted it, is a very interesting question. Therefore, about it is said, who am I is a question where those who answer fail in the exam. And those who do not answer, not because they are puzzled, out of deep insight that nothing can be said about who I am. They see the truth of it. And because they see the truth of it, they don't answer. Those who do not answer thus pass, in flying colors. Those who answer fail. And by its very nature, the award of who am I is given posthumously. Anyone who conducts the who am I inquiry dies. The ego dies. The separate self dies. When the separate self dies, tato na vijugupsate. In his introductory shloka of Saddarshanam, saying this, let me conclude and make room for maybe one or two questions today, this evening. In Saddarshanam it is said, people are afraid of death. And therefore, they are afraid of Mrityu. They pray to Mrityunjaya, Shiva. Then Mrityunjaya blesses them and kills their ego. There is no separate self in them. And because there is no one here now to die, there is no fear of death. Very interesting logic. Maharshi Ramana had his own mathematics. Mrityunjayam mrityubhyashritanam aham matir mrityumupaiti purvam athasvabhavad amriteshu teshu katham punar mrityu dhiyo vakashaha. He says, second shloka. Katham punaha mrityu dhiyaha avakashaha. Where is room? Sayo bhaya ಆಗ್ಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಸಾಯ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಭಾವನೆ ಇರಬೇಕು. ನಾನು ಸಾಯ್ತೀನಿ ಅಂತ ಭಾವನೆ ಇರಬೇಕಾದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಈ ಥರ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ಆ ಥರ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ, ಇವ್ರ ಮಗ, ಅವ್ರ ಅಪ್ಪ, ಈ ಮನೆ ಒಡೆಯ, ಅಷ್ಟು ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಬ್ಯಾಲೆನ್ಸ್ ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡವನು, ಹೆಸರುವಾಸಿಯಾದವನು, ಕೆಲವರಿಗೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ನಂದು ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ಸೈಡ್ ಗೊತ್ತು, ಈ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ನಮ್ಮ ಮನಸ್ಸಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಇಂಥವನು, ನಾನು ಅಂಥವನು ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಕಲ್ಪನೆ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಅಪ್ಪಿಕೊಂಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ. ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಮಗೆ ಎಷ್ಟು ಮೋಹ ಅಂದರೆ ಅದನ್ನು ಹೆಚ್ಚು ವರ್ಣಿಸಬೇಕಾಗಿಲ್ಲ. ನನ್ನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನನಗೇನು ಕಲ್ಪನೆ ಇದೆಯೋ ಅದು ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಕೆಟ್ಟದಿರಲಿ ಎಷ್ಟೇ ಒಳ್ಳೆಯದಿರಲಿ ಅದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತುಂಬ ಪ್ರೀತಿ ನನಗೆ. ಎಲ್ಲಕ್ಕಿಂತ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ಪ್ರೀತಿ ನನ್ನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನಾನು ಇಟ್ಕೊಂಡಿರುವ ಒಂದು ಕಲ್ಪನೆ. ಮಹರ್ಷಿಗಳು ಹೇಳೋ ಪ್ರಕಾರ ಆ ಅಹಮ್ಮತಿ, ನನ್ನ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ನನಗಿರುವ ಕಲ್ಪನೆಗಳ ಸಮೂಹವೇ ಆ ಮೃತ್ಯುಂಜಯ ಶಿವನ ಕೃಪೆಯಿಂದ ಹೊರಟು ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ. ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮೃತ್ಯುವಿನ ಭಯ ಇಲ್ಲ, ಯಾಕಂದ್ರೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸಾಯಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರಿಲ್ಲ ಒಳಗೆ. ಅಲ್ಲೊಂಥರ ಆನಂದದ ಮೌನ ಇದೆ. ಒಂದಿನ ಟಪ್ ಅಂತ ಶರೀರ ಬಿದ್ದು ಹೋಗುತ್ತೆ, ಬಿದ್ದು ಹೋಯ್ತಷ್ಟೇ. ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನು ಹೋದೆ ಅನ್ನೋಕಲ್ಲಿ ನಾನೇ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಅರ್ಥ ಗಾಂಭೀರ್ಯ ಊಹಿಸಲಿಕ್ಕೆ ಅಸಾಧ್ಯವಾದದ್ದು ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ವಿ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಥ್ರೋನ್ ಎ ಫ್ಯೂ ideas in the air, what this self-knowledge is all about. Maybe it was simple at places, maybe it was a bit confusing at other places. Hopefully we will clarify everything as we proceed. Let me pause here and please do ask a question or two. Tomorrow we will have maybe more time. Yes.
Swamiji, you said reward and punishment, they go together.
Correct.
It is a bit confusing.
Yeah.
To take an example, I study and I get PhD.
Correct.
So that's a reward.
Yeah.
So where do I see punishment here?
Correct. Very, very, very practical question. I study hard and I get PhD. It's the reward. Where is the punishment? So my focus in the talk was not just the external side of it. Suppose psychologically, internally, you harbor certain emotions. You get attached to that and then you get PhD. Okay, you are successful. But because you went about it, see, it's all about the manner in which you go about it. You went about it with hope, with certain expectation, with certain investment, and saying, I have worked hard enough, I should be getting, I hope it will come to me now. And you got it. This psychological involvement creates something in you, you know. It will give you punishment not in that limited area. It will, in fact, in the limited area also I can explain, but to make it a bit simpler, you will find tomorrow when your son is trying hard, you know, but he is not successful, you get very angry with him. You say, Naan Vodwaga, when I studied, you know how I worked? Lot of fathers do it, lot of parents do it. They compare how they were and they, you know, put pressure on the son. The son could be different. Then the son doesn't like it. The son resists. The son says, your times were different, or I am different. Appa, don't put pressure on me. That leads to more friction. That leads to tension. That leads to father and son having a gap. The mother intervenes. That can, 100 things happen. Whereas, suppose I have nothing about this studying and getting the PhD. Suppose as you are studying for PhD and you get the PhD, suppose you are Vedantically illumined and suppose you have very sattvic thoughts. Then, though outwardly there is work and its reward, inwardly, to put it in a simple popular language of bhakti, you say, I have done all this. Well, if Lord Narayana wants, I will get the PhD. If the Lord wants it some other way, I won't get this university somehow, he won't give a PhD to me, but God will show me another way, etc., etc. There is a tremendous unconditional self-acceptance in the Nishkama Karma. Normally, what I criticized or what I said will land you in trouble is the Sakama Karma. The world, and especially so much of these developed countries, etc., countries like America and so on, basically, they are on a fast track. Do this, get this, do this, get this, and go there where you get it quickly. America, I respect America. I know. Just to illustrate, I said they also have a lot of Sattvic people. They are there. It's another topic. It's an amazing country, but by and large, the message you get is, be on the run. For 9 out of 10 people, to be on the run implies a lot of investment emotionally. During my own visits to USA, having raised that example, I have met some youngsters. Indian children are generally very good, doing well. But 1 or 2 out of 10 are not doing well, and they are so depressed. That is the punishment Indian community is getting. Indians, Chinese, Vietnamese, these Far East Eastern people, they are giving a lot of importance to doing well, So one son does well, the other one doesn't do well. The atmosphere in the home is not very tolerant. The atmosphere, you cannot change the gear, so quickly. If I am somebody who praises achievement, suddenly I cannot change the gear and say it's all right. I will not. I will become judgmental. Therefore, sir, it is not just studying and getting the PhD. It is the emotional content when you go about it. There, suppose you are very judgmental. I get it, I am okay. If I don't get it, my life is a waste. If that kind of thinking is in us, that will lead to punishment. Otherwise, there is no problem. All of us work hard, we get. Yeah.
Whether truth is above logic, sir?
Truth is beyond logic, yeah. It is beyond logic. I would quote Sir Radhakrishnan. He said, he used slightly different words. Religion is not against reason. Religion is beyond reason. So you may put it this way. Truth is not against logic. Truth is beyond logic. Because logic, wonderful though it is, has its own limitations. Therefore in Upanishads we say, Upanishads reveal. We don't say Upanishads logically show you that you are the pure self. Actually it is a revelation. Upanishads are a revelation. And it is not a logical establishment, but it is not against logic. That's where Radhakrishnan comes. Upanishads are not against logic, but they are not within logic. They are beyond logic. They show to us something which logic cannot. Naisha tarkena matirapaneya is in Kathopanishad. One last question for tonight, then we conclude. Tomorrow I'll definitely give full 15 minutes for question and answer. Okay. How to give up attachment to self-image. Spend 2 minutes or 3 minutes here and there in silent self-observation. That is all. I am doing that these days. There was a time when I was very attached to reading books. Now also I read, but 2 minutes and 3 minutes. Don't think you have to sit very long. Just sit 2 minutes and look at your self-image. Your mind is always doing some noise. Next time your mind says, I think I have done well and people are appreciating. There is a happiness. Just take a look at it. Then you find that you have the intelligence which shows the limitation of that pleasure. And as you become more mature, next day people for somehow misunderstand you and then nobody respects you. There's pain. You go through pain. Then because you have sharpened your self-observation, you take a look at 2 minutes. You take a look. I'm so pained by how people are treating me. Take a look at it. Then you find that this thought process where the pain is the foul smell now, this thought process is not genuine. It is a conditioned thought process. It's in the sense, do you follow Kannada? ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಹುಚ್ಚು ಹಿಡಿದಿದೆ, ನನಗೂ ಆ ಹುಚ್ಚು ಹಿಡಿತು. ಇದೊಂದು ಹುಚ್ಚಿದೆ. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಎ ಮ್ಯಾಡ್ನೆಸ್, ಪಾಗಲ್ಪನ್. ಇಟ್ಸ್ ಎ ಮ್ಯಾಡ್ನೆಸ್. Everybody is very happy when they build a big house and I get into that madness. ನಾನು ದೊಡ್ಡ ಮನೆ ಕಟ್ಟಿದೆ, ಖುಷಿಯೋ ಖುಷಿ. ಇನ್ನೊಂದು ದಿನ ಏನೋ ಅನಾಹುತ ಆಯಿತು, ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಅಳ್ತಾರೆ, ನಾನು ಅಳ್ತೀನಿ. ಸೊ ಇದು ಒಂಥರ ಸಾಂಕ್ರಾಮಿಕ ರೋಗದ ಥರ. ಆದ್ದರಿಂದ ಬೈ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವಿಂಗ್ the way your mind is working, and by seeing for yourself that your mind has heavily bought into, there is an expression, buying into, or another word is subscribing. Your mind has subscribed to a way of thinking, way of seeing as majority goes. I told the example of America. If somebody goes to America and just gets Americanized or westernized, he is in for trouble. But if he learns the efficiency and 100 other good things, but then has, I don't say it has to be from the East. There also I told you, there are a lot of Sattvic people there. From some Sattvic professor there, for some Sattvic executive there, from some Sattvic lady there, you get a balanced view. Then you are spared. So to facilitate that, one is this learning from others, but your best guru is within you. Watch yourself and see through the game that your mind is playing. Shubharatri, ನಾಳೆ ಮತ್ತೆ ನೋಡೋಣ.